This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day. Carefully crafted for you by humans, so meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fully Managed Podcast. This is the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you with your business journeys. I'm your host, Daniela, and I'm Penji's partnership coordinator. I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Lindsey Witmer Collins from WLCM.
Welcome.
Did I say the letters properly?
I'd say welcome.
Oh, welcome. That's a lot better.
I think.
Yes. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for being here. That makes so much more sense, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Welcome. And thank you for being on the podcast today.
You're welcome. So the story behind the name, my initials are LWC. And when I first started this agency, it was only me. And so it was my name. And then as I started hiring a team and then we got bigger, it was still under the umbrella of Lindsey Witmer Collins or LWC. And so I needed to change that. So I just moved the letters around to make the word welcome, without
The
any
vowels.
vowels. Yeah. And then just WLC instead of LWC and then added an M. So that's why it's welcome.
That's amazing. I love when there's like that kind of acronym. And I was looking at your brand and I was like wondering if it was like, it meant something and I was like missing it. And then I just pronounced it WLC, but it sounds so much better when you say welcome.
Yeah. It's also our design philosophy.
Really?
That the spirit of the word welcome embodies everything that good software is. So that's also
So it's like
part of
very encompassing to your brand. That's amazing.
it.
Well, Lindsay, that's so cool. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. But before we get into the nitty gritty and talk about you and welcome and everything, I do want to play a little game with you. It's a segment on our podcast where I have my guests play a game. Sometimes it's a prompt. I have a game for you today, and it's called Guess the Trend. So here, I'm going to tell you, basically, it's going to be either a buzzword or a term or a concept. And I want you to tell me if you know what it is and what it's about.
Okay.
Okay. So it's a guess. Don't worry. When I was doing research for this, I didn't know about a lot of these. So it was learning. It was learning experience for me, but we'll see how well you do. So the first one that I wanted to tell you about is called dark social. Do you know what dark social means? What do you think it means?
I don't know what it means. I would guess that it's being on social media without, anonymously, maybe.
Yeah, actually, you're on the right track. I also did not know this, but dark social apparently is when social media marketing type of thing happens privately. So it would be like a share through a DM, emails, that kind of thing. So it's hard to track.
Organic growth. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's called dark social. Big learning thing for me too. I didn't know there was a term for it. I would just say
also not as organic growth so that you can't. That you can't track. That doesn't happen online publicly. That's okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Interesting. Then the other one that I wanted to ask you about is, what is ghost commerce?
I don't know.
I also did not know. Ghost commerce is Selling products online without a website, often through social media, DMs, or influencers. It's a term that people use for that. I always
Is
just tell
that
them.
successful?
I think I think Facebook Marketplace is pretty successful, right? But I don't know if that counts as ghost commerce. Because I know a lot of people sell stuff on like Facebook groups.
Yeah, but I mean, in that case, there's no associated brand. But if you were like a company selling something without a website, I'm curious if that works, honestly.
I don't know. I've never heard of like a company not having a website. I mean, every time I've heard of like people doing that it's like, the equivalent of a garage sale, but now it happens online. I've never seen a company rely fully on like selling through other means, but it might be a thing. Um, but that is the game.
All right.
Don't worry. I didn't know any of these terms either. If it makes you feel better, I was also like, what is this? Okay, it's a thing. But I wanted to test you, see if you have heard of it. Sometimes I just feel like there's terms that people come up with for everything. Nowadays, it's hard to even know what everything is.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, let's get into welcome and talk about you. So can you give us a quick intro of your name, well, we obviously know your name, but like everything that we need to know about you, everything we need to know about welcome, your favorite color, whatever you want to share, for everybody watching that's not familiar with you.
Okay, so I'm Lindsay. I have been building software, apps starting from about like over 15 years ago. I got started in the app space like in the very, very early days of the App Store's launch, and have ever since been working in that space. And a lot of what we do is direct to consumer mobile apps, but we also honestly, like the bread and butter of what we do is sort of like things that are less easy to grasp or um, like put in our portfolio because they're like back end systems that run companies. So we do like a lot of administrative or like very custom SaaS platforms for larger companies to help them run better and more efficiently, less headaches for everyone involved. So we sort of help companies run better through that. Um, and we're a tight knit team. There's about 25 of us. We've been together for a long time. We all really like each other. We like making stuff together. And we just take a lot of pride in what we do. We're a creative app design and development agency because we have a heavy emphasis on not just getting the code written and the product done, but building it in a way that will win, whatever winning means. If win in the marketplace, if it's direct to consumer, or just win within a company, if it's an internal software system. So we have a heavy design focus and just a high quality focus, I guess. So that's a little background on welcome. I write about tech and AI. I'm always think my job is to just sit on the edge of what's possible and just be constantly exploring that to make sure that as an agency, we're doing the best work that we can do. And also because it's just extremely interesting to me. And when I got started in the App Store was because I was fascinated. Like, here's this brand new medium. And so I wanted to see what was possible with it. And right now with AI, I'm always trying to stay at the edge of that. And for me, it's like a playground. Like, okay, what got released today? What can I do with it? That sort of thing. So I do a lot of writing and thinking and speaking about tech in general. I'm based in the Bay Area. And I also have a Gen AI startup, which is called Scribbly, and it makes children's books. You like upload a picture of your child and then it illustrates them throughout the book. So that's me. I'm an entrepreneur and a tinkerer, I guess.
That's so cute. I'd like to have I don't have a kid, but if I did, I think that'd be really cute to have them just sort of make a book of my kid or like a picture. I mean, and it's exciting for kids to do that too.
Yeah, you can, if you have a picture of yourself as a child, you can make a book of yourself. I made one for, yeah, I gave my husband a book of him when he was just from the one photo we have of him as like a small boy. So anyway, he really liked it.
That's so real. That is very cute. But I did want to ask you, Lindsay, because I know that you got started with something so different to marketing. Um, you were doing environmental engineering, right? And
Yeah.
I think that kind of pop or sort of change in an industry from one industry to another. Um, what actually inspired you to transition from environmental engineering and what you were doing in South Africa? Because I know you're also doing finance, right?
Yeah, I thought I was gonna work in international aid and environmental and do environmental work. And that's because the way that I thought about choosing a career at that time in my life was like, what did I feel like I could contribute to that would have the highest positive impact? And those were things that I felt like were really important. Poverty, lack of access to clean water, which is, can has all kinds of implications long term. And so I was sort of aligning my career along that path versus what I am actually really excited about and good at, right? So like I um can do that work and I like to do it. But the fact is when I was in college, I was at the School of Public Health and Environmental Engineering technically doing my major. And I spent so much time in the School of Business. And I actually like started a course that I co-taught at the School of Business, but I was never a student there because I didn't think of myself as like a B school kid, right? I just was like, oh no, I identify more as this kind of a person, which wasn't really um I guess over time, I was like going toward what I actually really gravitated toward, even if I'm not totally sure that what I do is going to have the greatest positive impact for humanity, but it's like what I feel really alive doing it. I'm so excited about it. Really, I guess like the entrepreneurial part of it is like really fun for me.
So it was like, you found your calling and you realized like, yeah, well, this is great, but this other stuff is great.
It's just too exciting, like too attractive. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I actually, I feel like these type of jobs that are very much like community driven are also, they're not talked about enough about how draining they can be emotionally because you have to sort of see so much tragedy, and people are sort of suffering, and a lot of the solutions are very sort of long term or complex, and I
Difficult and
think
pressure.
yeah,
Yes.
it's a lot of pressure, and I can understand how someone can get burnt out of that pretty quickly because it is very emotionally taxing on people.
Yeah, and the day to day, I worked a lot in a lab, a clean water lab, and that was really fun. I just listened to, listened to radio and sat and did my pipetters. But like, um, I wasn't like particularly good at like I could go and do it all day, but like putting designing, it's just like I'm like a much more creative that I really thrive when I can sort of be messy, experiment, try to make something beautiful, try to do something a little bit of a different way, see like push the limits of a machine and see, like I'm much more like my personality is just more suited for what I'm doing now versus what I tried to do then, you
Yeah,
know.
that's great. I think it's always inspiring to hear someone who sort of found what their calling was and followed that. I think a lot of people, don't have that drive to do that. So I think it's still great. But to kind of talk a little bit about the birth of Welcome, I wanted to ask you because when you faced or after, I guess, facing the first initial challenges of, developing your first app, your experience with that, and then went in and had Welcome. Um, how has that sort of moment been evolving into what the company has become?
I started. I didn't actually want to make an agency, a software agency. That wasn't my intention. I just wanted to make an app because I had a cool idea, or an idea I thought was cool and worthwhile. I raised funding for it. I got a grant. I had a pot of money. These are super early days. Back then, there were no like best practices or guidelines or frameworks or anything for actually making a mobile app. Like there were entire fields that are that I can say that I work in now that didn't really exist. They were very nascent back then. And so, I just Googled like how to get an app built. And then I hired this company out of New York City thinking, okay, well, they're got to be legit. They know what they're doing. And I thought, okay, just hand over my money. And then they hand me back my app, not realizing like it can't work that way. It's such a co-creative process. There's a whole user experience and interaction and interface sort of design work that you need to do ahead of time. And then we should have these like sprints and we should have a plan and there should be a team. But like there was none of that. I didn't know that there should have been that. Basically, they didn't deliver really at all. Like time passed, we made promises, they didn't deliver. And then meanwhile, I was telling my investors and all these others, like, oh, we're gonna be done next month, because that's what they would tell me. And then they wouldn't deliver to me. And then, it sort of turned me into like now I had made a promise that I wasn't keeping, which is not aligned like that. That's not who I am. And that was like a really kind of a dark night of the soul. Like I need to get this done. And like, I can't because I can't trust it, So eventually they did nothing. I lost money and then I kind of like figured out how to get it done. But I completed the work. I launched the product, but I was just like bruised and bleeding going across the finish line. And I was like, I'm never doing software again. You can't trust anyone. There's no, I was really taken advantage of, I felt. And so what happened is I wanted to start a different company, like a wellness consultancy around like design thinking. And then, but like, because my app was one of like 10 apps in the app store at the time, people heard about it and they were asking me, oh, I want to make an app. How do I do it? And sort of a gold rush at that time. Um, and so I was just helping people out. But there was no website, there was no intention to monetize. I wanted to do something totally different. But as time went on, I guess I told my husband, if I chase two rabbits, I'll catch another. I need to stop doing software altogether, because I want to build this other thing. And he just said, well, nobody wants to pay you for this other thing so far. But like people are knocking on your door and they really need your help with this. And so took me a couple of days to come around to the idea of, well, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Maybe this is the path that makes the most sense. And so I never looked back. Like that was really the genesis. I made a little website, and I just started helping people bring software to life. And that's how that worked.
And your website is actually really cool. When I looked at it, I mean, it looked like I was in a magazine almost. I feel like that was kind of like how it felt. Like I was reading an article in like a magazine and I don't, in a good way, because it feels inviting. I think a lot of times agency websites can be very sort of businessy and to the point. And that's great. But I also enjoy something when I get an experience where I also like enjoy skimming through and you guys have like the cursor kind of changing, and I enjoy that because it makes me more interested in sort of looking into everything that's happening into the premises of the website. So it's obviously been great for you, even though it wasn't what you had originally envisioned.
Yeah, I love Welcome. And, it's hard to imagine that there was a time when I thought this wasn't, what I was supposed to be doing. Um, but yeah, the website, surprise and delight is kind of what I go for sometimes. But I had this bigger vision for it that I had to like bring down to earth. But yeah, I have like so many things that I want to do with animation and things like, one has to be realistic about, you know, this isn't a movie. This is, there's always like a balance to play between like beauty and fiction. So yeah.
Yeah. I know what you mean. But within, that sort of topic, I wanted to ask you, because I feel like that balance of, like you said, beauty versus function is so huge. When it comes to app development, web development, we do UX, UI design too at Penji. And I think when we're dealing with clients, a lot of it is sort of finding that balance of telling them, like, this might look great, but it's not going to be good for your website.
Yeah.
It's not, yeah, it's not going to meet your goals of,
Yeah.
if it's like an e-commerce website, for example, that happens a lot where like it looks good, but it's not user friendly for like online shopping and so forth. And so you kind of have to find that balance of making something, uh, you know, beautiful, but also making it functional.
Yeah.
And also kind of following whatever technological advances are happening and stuff like that. And within your team, I wonder, how does that collaboration happen? And do you think that it was a process to sort of figure it out? Or are you still working on it, of, sort of mixing that technical mindset with the creative aspect to actually make a really good app at the end of the day?
Yeah. I have tried to, I work with various designers. We have, an internal team, and our internal team is really focused on like UX UI as it relates to software, like making software that's really usable and user friendly. Um, when I have worked with graphic designers, like I feel like they have a whole different, and then art is like these are entirely different sort of. They have different goals, right? It's about beauty or it's about evoking a feeling. Whereas with software, it's very much like we need to help somebody get something done. That's why they're using our software. Like they're not. Let's make it a really beautiful experience. Let's make it feel really good. Let's create an inviting environment that people want to be in, but never at the expense of clarity and ease. Just never creating friction where we don't need to create it, even if it's just like graphic flourishes here and there that are just distracting from like the button that you need to push or the field that needs to be filled out, and so I think that's like they're almost really different arts. There's like more of a science or psychology to UX design. And then also being really grounded in function, like understanding how this can get done and what's the logic behind it. Sometimes I see interfaces designed that are just impossible to build, like where it's like, obviously you need to really understand, your platform and
Yeah.
make it buildable, basically, which is, keep the developer in mind when you're designing.
Yeah, it happens with us a lot, like we were talking about. And I think it's like, honestly, such an important balance to find for most people, which is like, what's really working versus what isn't working. And yes, it's pretty. Is it functional? Is it actually something buildable? Is it super complicated? It's like a whole thing that goes into
Yeah.
it.
Is it worth the cost to build it in this way? Like with a website, for example, I had this idea, these like I wanted the whole thing to have this like, the circles as being like really thematic. And so having circles burst as you sort of like scroll down, I wanted to have like things move, in this really dynamic way, which I still think would be awesome. but it would take so much time and expense to build like a super custom, like animations like that, that it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. So like, okay, let's think of a better solution, and that's grounded in reality, I guess,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important.
It's important for sure. And also, I know that you guys only take a handful of projects each year, which I guess it's obviously going to be something to ensure quality. Um, when you are actually sort of when the time comes to choose, how do you choose which projects to work in? Which ones are you going to have to sort of say no to? And is it challenging to pursue to not pursue, sorry, turn down potential clients?
Uh, no, I mean, I just did recently. I think I look for things that are sort of aligned, like like in the sense of I really want to see this exist in the world. I think this is a really good idea and a good solution that I'm excited to make. Often it's because it's addressing a pain point that I really understand, or that my team does. So the leadership team at Welcome is mostly women, and we're a male and female team. But if somebody is coming to us with a project related to lactation, for example, we know that problem, we know that market, we can really do well at that in a way that like most 99% of other firms aren't going to be able to do because they don't have a team, that's going to really understand that problem set. So like a lot of the work that we do is related to women and women's health because we're just better at it, Um, and then in terms of the technology, we look at like we're not going to take a project if it's like way outside of what we're really capable of. We want to be like, hey, that's not our wheelhouse. This is where we're really good. Like these, we know what we're really good at. I think I just want to always set us up for success. Um, and that has to do with the nature of the project in terms of who its market is, the problem it's addressing. Second, are we really technically like good at what this is? And then thirdly, do we want to work with these people? Like we want to be like an as if in-house technical team. Like we're super invested. Like like we want to onboard as if we're a part of your company. And um, we, I don't want my project managers to hate opening every email they get from this client, or want it to be like this is a really collaborative um, partnership. We're all on the same team, working toward the same goals, solving problems together, listening to one another. And it just feels good, you know, versus, some personalities. It's sort of clear like, I don't think we want to deal with you. So yeah.
Yeah, it happens. I think that's like probably also the healthiest. I think um I learned that to do that with the podcast actually. So me and my co-host, we kind of had this agreement of if a guest is not someone that we first of all, we don't support whatever it is that they're doing, like their business, because we are going to be talking about your business in the podcast. And we don't like that business. We're just not gonna bother with filming. Um if there is at some point any feeling of, oh, this person is kind of rude or they're making me feel uncomfortable or like you said, like anything off and the shoot doesn't fit, we have decided to sort of not do it because like you said, it's just the product is just also not going to turn out that well, you know?
Yeah, I think for us too, it's a forever part. Like, we work with these companies for the lifetime of their software. So, it's like we'll pay for it for years, if we um don't we've been really lucky. There were Yeah, I think that, recently I was like, yeah, this project isn't a good fit. I felt like the solution, I don't know that that's going to improve the world all that much. I don't know that it's going to be especially good at doing it more than anybody else, and the personality is really aggressive here. So like, I feel like we're probably not the best fit for you. If I do really pursue a project, sometimes I'll invest in it. I'm just like, this is the thing I want to see happen. I care about this. And I'm like really um upfront about that. Like, this is so aligned. I really want to work with you. Um, how do we do it? So
Yeah, and I think that's also really important is to stay true to yourself, and what you want with your business, with who you believe in, etc. And I think that's a great note to end this podcast on, Lindsay. It's been so great having you today. But before we end it, I do want to give you the space to plug anything that you want to plug. If what we spoke about today resonated with anybody on our audience, the floor is yours.
yeah, I think the main thing is connect with me on LinkedIn, Lindsey Witmer Collins. And I have a newsletter as well that I really like. It's a monthly newsletter about tech, life, entrepreneurship, and all kinds of things. And I'm always building things and, being really transparent about how the process is going, watching tech trends, trying to be thoughtful about them, and how to navigate and think about, this industry at a really, I think, exciting time. So follow me, subscribe to my newsletter on LinkedIn and connect with me there.
Awesome. Yeah. And I will be adding the links to all of this stuff in the description of this video so that you can go ahead and, just access it whenever. Well, not you, I guess you, our audience. And thank you so much for being here, Lindsay. It was great having you.
You too, Daniela. Great to meet you.
It was great to meet you too. Everyone, I'll see you on the next episode.
All right. Bye.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.